In this video, I'll be showing you the interface in Maya. You'll get to learn how to use some of these tools in creating awesome design. Don't go away, join me in class. Thank you. Hi, welcome to another Maya class, and we'll continue from where we stopped in the last class. And today we're going to be looking at three aspects of the interface in Maya, which is the channel box. It's on my right, box, stroke, and layer editor. We have the second one, which is the modeling toolkit, and the third one, which is the attribute editor. I'll bring in an object to the scene. Alright. Now you can see from my perspective view. Don't forget, in the last class we talked about different camera views. This is the top view, this is the front view, this is the perspective view, and this is the side view. To navigate into each of the views, ensure your cursor is on the camera view. Then you tap your spacebar. That takes you to the top view. Now to take it back, you tap your spacebar. You see it in the 4 camera position. Now I'll be working from my perspective view, and I would like to. If you look at this box, okay, don't forget this is our move tool. You can see the arrows, they are in 3 forms, and this is the rotate, and this is the scaling. Now if you look at the box in the scene, and let's go to our channel box, you can see that there are different names. Now the x-axis is usually the side. The side, if you're very familiar with graphs, you should understand this better. The y-axis is usually the top, and the z-axis is the front. I'll explain this. Now if you look at the box, let me zoom in. The arrow facing up is the y-axis. You can also see it has been replicated here. The arrow is the y-axis, which means it moves upwards. The red arrow is the side. It moves to the side. And the blue is the front. You can check out this. All right, you can see, and the blue is the front. Now to explain how the channel box works, the box is positioned at the middle of this grid. Okay, let's go to our top view to see what I'm talking about. You can see it's at the center of the grid. Now usually when an object is brought into the scene, by default it's in the middle, and that's why you find out that the channels here are 0. Now if I move this box from the 0 position to any position, let me move it to my right, you can see that a number has been assigned. What this means is that the box has moved from the 0 position to the next position, which is about 1.495. Now if I hold Ctrl and press Z to undo, it returns to 0. The channel box holds down the numbers of movement of an object. Now if I go to my perspective view and move this box upward, you can see in the translate Y column it has moved 0.769. Now the reason why the channel box is very important, it helps you with your dimension, and is also most helpful when you are doing some architectural designs. If you need to move an object in about maybe 2 centimeters, the channel box would help you do that. If, for instance, I want to bring in another box, let me press Ctrl D to duplicate. We have two items. Don't forget, I explained in our last class that the outliner, in the outliner you have all the items in the scene. I have cube 1, I have cube 2. There are two items here. If I move the second item from the first initial position away from the first cube, you can see that the distance between this first cube and the second cube is about minus 3.762. And the reason why you are seeing the negative symbol here is because I'm moving it in the negative direction. Now if I move it in the positive direction, let me undo this. You can see that's the front view. That's the front view. If you want to have an exact spacing between objects or dimensions, the channel box enables you to do that. Okay, for instance, if I want to create an equal distance between these two shapes, probably let's say 4, all I need to do is go in here and type 4, enter. You can see that the distance between the first cube and the second cube is 4. That is in the front direction. This also can be replicated in any of the axes here. If I want to do same, Ctrl D, up, I can also create the same timing and the same distance. Now watch this. X axis, that's the Y axis, I put in 4. If I duplicate this again, I mean to the front, that is the Z axis, I put 4. Then I come to this side, duplicate it and move it, and I click type in 4. Now you can see that each of these items have been spaced equally, 4, 4, 4, 4. In a nutshell, the channel box enables you to see the dimension between objects and enables you to have an accurate spacing of object so that you don't guess. So at this point, it's as equal as it can be. Now let's go to our front view. You can see that the distance between the top and the bottom box is the same between the bottom box and the side box, and that's for the channel box. Now we'll go into the modeling toolkit. The modeling toolkit is well, as you can see, is a kit that has a lot of features that you can use in modeling. Now the first one we're going to be looking at briefly, because like I said, we're going to be looking at this in details in the course of the class and this series. The combine, as the name implies, combines two objects. Watch this. If I want to combine this box and this box, I will need to highlight both of them to be able to combine. To select the second one, when you select the first one, press and hold Shift and select the second box. You can see the first box was green in color, but when I selected the second box changed to green. With this, it shows you that both boxes, the two boxes, have been highlighted. At this point, we can combine. When you click combine, they become one shape. Now watch this. You can see I can no longer click them individually. If I decide to move them, they both will move at the same time because the command combine has put them or glued them together. So this object can now be referred as one. You can see. I will undo this. That's the command combine function. I will undo this. All right. So you can see we can select them individually now. All right. Now, the separate is almost as opposite as the combine. To separate this item, now let me combine them again. Combine. All right. It's been combined, don't forget. To separate them, it's the opposite of combine. When I click separate, the two boxes will separate, and you can see I can select them once again. I'll repeat this. Let me combine them. Don't forget, you click or highlight the two objects you want to combine. You click combine, and you can see they are one. To separate them, you click on the object you want to separate, and before you can separate object, you must be sure that they were two items glued together. So for instance, I cannot click on this box and separate because it's one item. Now, but I can click on this because there are two items. When you click separate, you see one changes to white and the other green, and I can select them individually. So that's how you get to use the separate option. Now we have another one, which is the smooth. The smooth enables you to make the object curved or smooth, as the name implies. If you have sharp edges, like you can see here at the angles of the box, when you press smooth, it deforms into something that looks softer or that looks spherical. Now watch what I'm going to do. Smooth. You can see there are more divisions added. It has changed from a cube to something more like a hexagon or a ball or something, or a sphere. Now that's it. Now when you press the smooth option, you have this window open. You can add more divisions. I mean divisions, you can add more lines or more edge loop. Now let's add more division. You can click on the division, press, that is left click, press and drag to your right. You can see it has deformed into a ball or something circular. Now that's it. You can also press and drag to your left. The more you drag to your left, the more the divisions are reduced. All right, so you can see. Okay, let's go back. Now that's the smooth option. Bowling. For bowling works more like combine, but in this regard, it can combine and it can also differentiate. Now when you have two objects come together, now let me do this. I bring this object together. Let me use a separate shape for you to understand. I would like to bring in, all right, I will bring this in and let me get them together. I just want to put them together to see how the bowling works. You need to apply certain rule to understand. If I want to combine these shapes together, all I need to do is select them just like I showed you in the combine, with the combine option. Click bowling. It joins the two objects together. You can see it's now one. You can't separate them. However, when you click your separate, it doesn't function and it will not work. And so you're beginning to see the difference between combine and bowling. When you combine, you can click separate and they will separate. But when you use the bowling feature, it can't separate. Now let me go back. That's one aspect of bowling. Now if you select and highlight both of them again and click on the bowling option, this window comes out. There are three operations here and you have the classification. If I take on the first, now this is union. Union is having two objects together. If I go to let's say difference. Observe the sphere swallows up the square. That's for difference. So it has deleted the square. It becomes another shape. That's for difference. If I want to choose intersect deletes both the square and the cube to form a unique shape, just like you've seen. You can see that intersect. So there's an intersecting point between the two. I'll go back again to explain this intersecting point. What you have seen here is, I'll go to my side view, okay, my front view, and I'll put it on transparent mode. You can see that the intersection between this point is what the command has picked. So in case of a next time, you can differentiate between each of these. There are all more options for bowling, but we'll get to see more of that in the course of our 3D designs. Okay, I'll go to the Extrude feature. The Extrude feature is more like a feature that grows out an object from an object. Okay, but before this can happen, there are two forms. You can either extrude in the original shape. Let me use the box for this. Let's click extrude. You can see when you click extrude, this small window comes up. You can decide to increase the thickness by pressing left. Press the left, hold it down and drag. You can see the box becomes bigger. And you can see that there's a small one inside. Now what has happened here is that the external surface of the box grew, leaving the internal surface at the original position. To make you understand this, let me take it back to the solid state. If I delete this external part, you see that the square, the internal part still remains. Control delete. You can see what happens with extrude is extrude grows the external surface and makes it bigger. That's one aspect of extrusion. You will get to understand more about extrusion. I can select now. When we go to our multi-components under the modeling toolkit, you can see that this is object mode. When you click on this object mode, it takes the object into the original state where you can move it. You have another option, which is the vertex. You can see the way the icon is. Vertex enables you to only select the points. Now you can see, now look at the difference. The object mode is green. When you click on your vertex, it changes its color. It highlights areas you can adjust. You can see this red dot. Now this is the vertex. Vertex are dots. If I click this dot now and extrude, watch what will happen. You can see it grew beyond its original state. Here is a box. You can adjust them, length, make it longer. You can add more divisions. When you hear divisions, just know that you're adding more edge loop, more lines. That's, I want to use the layman's language. Then the width, you can see you increase the width. So that's vertex. Each of these, now this is an edge loop. Edge loop are lines. You can see the way the icon has been created. Any line you click is edge loop. So I can actually increase click the lines and extrude the lines. Now let's see. I've extruded the lines. Now all I need to do is drag it out. You can see the lines. The line here is growing. So let me apply the third one, which is the face. Face is anything that has to do with the surface. The surface. Now these three multi-components shows you the different areas of any object you can choose. You can either choose the surface by clicking it, or you choose the line alone, or you choose the edges or wherever you have pointers. It's not always necessary that you will always have the vertex at the angles. Now to prove this, I'll click on this sphere. Let me click on vertex. You can see a lot of vertex here. These are the lines. You can click any one and press or click extrude. They will all grow out. Now that's it. This last one here, you can see this is the UV selection. So when you click the multi-component highlights the three at the same time. What this means is you can choose the face, you can choose the line, and you can actually choose the vertex at the same time. You can play around with some of these things. You can play around with it and get yourself to be familiar with them. Alright, so that's extrude. Bevel. I'm sure you're very familiar with any photographic software. Bevel is a very common term. Now, bevel, usually when you bevel something, it's like you're duplicating it. I would like to use a square to explain this. All right, let's use this. Okay, now you can see this line here. When you press or click on this line, when you bevel it, you can see you have duplicated it. You have created two lines, creating another face. However, you can actually work on this option here. You can see I've added more segments to make it curve. If I don't want to do that, I can turn down the distance of the face. All right, so you can see that's bevel. Now you can also bevel the face. Now let's click on the face. Let's press bevel. You can see you can bevel this face to create something like this. Now each of these components can be extruded. Each of these components can be beveled. Each of these components can be bridged. Each of these components you can add divisions and all of that. All right, now we'll quickly go to attributes. We will look at some other components like these tools, multi-cuts, target wedge, connect, quadra, subsequent classes. Now you have the attributes. Attributes, like the name implies, gives you the attribute of an object. You can see each of these components all have different attributes. This is the attribute. You can see when you go into each of these, which is really not necessary, you can do some of the adjustments and manipulations here. So it shows you the attribute of this box. Here you can see you can change the color, you can do some adjustments here. Whatever you want to do, you can see this attribute. One of the attributes of this box is it's a Lambert material. We'll get to that subsequently. You can change the color here from, you see, you're changing the attributes of this object I've brought in. You can actually make it transparent. Okay, these are attributes. You can make the ambient color lighter or darker. You can increase the impedance to make it lighter or brighter. You can do all forms of things here. So the attribute of each box. Now this is just on basically the colors. Now when we go into our look development, which is also known as texturing, you also get to see the attributes of each texture. That's all we're going to take in today's class. In our next class, we'll start off and kick off with trying our hands on how to model basic props like tables, bottles, and all of that. Thank you for watching, and please, if you have not subscribed to my channel, please do so and click the bell button. Thank you very much.